All right, I see the recording button. Thank you, and I want to thank Kevin and also Kim on this call as the outgoing past president for her years of service here on the district board. We certainly appreciate all the time, and Kevin, of course, will be sticking around as the immediate past chair. He's also going to hang out as treasurer and be a voice on the national nominating committee. So we certainly appreciate that, Kevin, and your years of service, and look forward to having you around for 2020. I think Kevin sent out the proposed board composition to all the chapter presidents and leaders yesterday. And we will schedule, our bylaws require a 30-day notice, so we will schedule another meeting in 30 days to take a formal vote on that. I mentioned earlier in the call, I'm having lunch with Heather Beck, our chair-elect for 2020, this Friday to do some initial planning. But I'm really excited about the panel that we put together and the leaders. There's a lot of energy out there, and certainly hope that we can begin to deliver some great value for you as chapter leaders in the new year. And certainly want to get more folks on these calls throughout the year, as well as have a very impressive showing at ICON in October, since it's in our backyard.
Definitely. Thank you, Brad. Mindy, let's go to you now with the national report. What do you have to share with us?
Hey, everybody. Good to have you on the call. Just a couple of quick things. About half of our chapters in the Southeast District have submitted your 2020 volunteer leader information. So thank you very much for those of you who have done that. If you haven't already done that, please do so. I'll be sending out another reminder later this week that'll have the link to the form if you need that. It's an online form. It's really important that we get that so that we can communicate with the right people in 2020, but also it gives you access to your dashboard in my PRSA and DocShare. Everybody who has access currently loses that access at midnight on December 31st. And if you haven't told us who your new folks are, nobody in your chapter is going to be able to get into the dashboard until you do. So very important, please do that. Also, you've received information from Michael Malero about a webinar on Thursday, January 16th. It's a 2-hour webinar from noon to 2 p.m. Eastern Time. They're calling it a nuts and bolts webinar, and it's going to be great information for your board members, perhaps some of your committee chairs. It's sort of a mini training similar to Leadership Rally for those of you who have been to Leadership Rally. They'll be covering financial best practices, membership reports, some governance items, some just general information about PRSA. So I do encourage you guys to register for that, share that with other people on your boards, get the benefit from it. I know it's a good chunk of time to take out of your workday, but if you can tune in for even part of it, that would be great. PRSA will record it so folks can view it later, but there will be some Q&A time. So if you can participate in the moment, that will be really helpful for you. And finally, I just want to thank you all. Just echo the thanks of, it's been great to work with you all this year. Looking forward to working with the teams 2020, working with Brad next year and his team for the district leadership. You guys know I love you all and I love my volunteers, and it's just a real joy and a privilege to be able to help you and support you. And I know that you know this, but I'm always here for you if you guys need anything. So just going into the holidays, I wish you all well. Get all your work done before you take time off for the holidays, and I hope everyone enjoys a restful, relaxed time, and we'll get back at it in January. Thanks a bunch.
Definitely. Thank you, Mindy. And I would also
Kevin?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is Kim Rossi from past year. When you have a second, I wanted to say something too. I wasn't there for roll call.
Yeah, no, go. I was just going to remind everyone, when you do submit your leadership people to national, if you could let Brad and myself know as well. That way we can make sure we're updating you as well. Kim, go ahead and welcome.
Thank you. This is my last call being part of the district board. So I just wanted to thank each and every one of you guys for your leadership and willing to step up in your chapter. And some of you are making the jump to the district board, and the district board members who are on the call, and Mindy, of course. And especially to Kevin and Brad for their wonderful leadership this year. I think it's been a good year, and Brad has, we've assembled a great team for next year. And I just want to thank all of you guys, because really leadership does matter in PRSA from every level. So what you do does matter. And I encourage you guys just to keep going. And if there's ever anything I can do, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm so proud to be part of the Southeast District, and I'm just so excited to see what 2020 is going to hold.
Thank you. It's been great working with you as well. Okay, I hear some typing. You're like 75 words a minute there. Don't mind putting your computer, your phone on mute. We'd appreciate that. And now let's get to Brooks Wallace, unless anybody else has anything to add at this point. Brooks joins us from PRSA San Francisco Bay Area. She is their 2019 Director of Communications, and that's newsletters, Instagram, and so much more. She's also their 2020 President-elect, which is awesome. Best wishes to you for that. She's also a former member of PRSA Boston, so she's bringing East Coast information and West Coast information. And in addition to all that, she does have a day job with Hollywood Agency. It's a national PR integrated communications firm. And from what I understand, she is the West Coast lead, which means they sent her from Boston to the West Coast and said, you know what, start an office for us. Have fun, go for it, and all that. And I think we're going to learn a lot today, and we're excited to have Brooks with us. So Brooks, please take it away.
Thanks so much, Kevin. And it's a pleasure to meet all of you. For those of you I can see and hear, I really appreciate you reaching out, Kevin, and offering this opportunity. Yes, I am a Boston transplant to San Francisco. I was on the leadership team of PRSA Boston for about 2 years before I moved here 3 years ago. So just a little bit about me and that background. So I do have a few slides that I prepared. I can fly through them pretty quickly, and then if that works, we can do some questions at the end.
Definitely.
Okay, great. So I will share my screen right now, and bear with me while I put this into presentation mode, slideshow. Okay, awesome. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, great. Got to get our logo in there, right? All about that.
Branding.
Shameless plug. So yes, just a little recap about me. I'm out here in the SF Bay Area. I'm the communications director this year. So I'm just finishing up my first year, and then I will also remain in that role next year, in addition to the chapter president-elect role. So it's going to be a busy next couple of years, but I'm excited. And as Kevin said, I'm originally from Boston. I was on that leadership team. So I do have a bit of insight on the inner workings of two different bi-coastal chapters, which is helpful. And then in my day job, I work in technology PR. Shocker, out here in San Francisco, I'm sure. But yeah, Hollywood Agency is a boutique firm that does consumer and technology PR. So that's me. And I just wanted to start with a couple of tidbits about the chapter, because obviously whatever communications that we roll out and whatever our strategy is, it always comes back to who are we talking to, right? So, you know, I was actually interested to learn when I first came to San Francisco that this chapter was one of the original 5 founding chapters. So we share that title with LA, Detroit, Hawaii, and New York, apparently. And it's big, it's really big. It's, you know, we serve members from 9 counties around the area, around the greater Bay Area, which it has approximately 300 members. So I think that's a bit more than the Boston chapter, if I recall correctly. But it's people in all different, you know, industries. You can see here a little snapshot of our membership breakdown. But, you know, 55% is technology, of course, which is not so surprising. But we have banking, we have consumer products, we have travel, tourism, real estate. So all of the communications that me and my committee put forth really are trying to appeal to everyone within the area and within all those different industries. So let me just move this for a moment. Okay, so we have a number of different channels. So we have the bi-weekly newsletter that I'm sure is not groundbreaking or new to any of you. I'm sure you have that too. Ours is called the Golden Gate Insider. I'll dive into that a bit more further down. We have our website, which is PRSASF.org. That was redone a couple years ago, right before I joined. We have our blog, and then social platforms, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. And then last but not least, I wanted to share a little bit about the media relations that I do for the chapter on the local and the national scale. Okay, newsletter. So here is a little view of our newsletter on mobile. So just tried to scroll through, and it's, as you can see, it's all different content. We do a lot of events. That's actually one of the big differences that I noticed coming from the Boston chapter to San Francisco, is that they do at least one event a month here. So it's a very engaged chapter, which obviously, you know, leads into a lot of communications role and requirements. We do Q&As, we do job postings, we do roundups of industry news that just scrolled through. We created a series called Hella Proud this year that we've instituted into each newsletter, which really talks about shout outs to members for a job well done. I manage the newsletter in MailChimp, nice and easy drag and drop platform. And graphics are huge, as you could just see, and I'll scroll through that again. But we do graphics, of course, for every event and every social media post, pretty much. And I use a tool that I love, and it is called Canva. I don't know if anybody has heard of it before, but it is free. And then they do have a paid version that gives you access to a lot deeper of a stock image library and a bunch of other perks.
Panda, like the animal?
It's called Canva. So
Canva, gotcha.
Yeah, C-A-N-V-A, almost like canvas without the S.
I've
Gotcha. I do have a little slide that just goes through the digital tool cheat sheets that I use, in case that's helpful, and I can, of course, provide this.
Hey, Brooks, this is Brad. There seems to be a lot in this newsletter. I'm curious, what does your data tell you about whether that link, whether people are they engaging with that content that's way down at the bottom?
Yep. Good question. So what I have learned this year is that the shorter content performs much better. I have that key finding right here, actually. So we do the biweekly newsletter, which is what you just saw there. And yes, it's pretty chock full of content. It looks a lot kind of busier and longer on mobile than when you on email, but it's long. Yeah, it's definitely a lot. So what I've kind of tinkered with this year is doing some ad hoc shorter form newsletters where the open rate doubles. So absolutely, you're right on point, Brad, asking that question. It's absolutely shorter form content performs better, gets more clicks, gets more eyeballs.
And have you done any A/B testing with subject lines to see what works best?
A bit, yes. That one I'm always kind of hung up on because it's the $1 million question, right? Is how to get members and readers to open that newsletter. Just recently, in the past few months, I started adding emojis to the subject line, kind of taking a cue from other newsletters that I receive from brands that I love. So I've been experimenting there, and at this point, no A/B testing has been done yet, but I do plan to do that, and I'm hoping at least that the emoji additions. Okay, so kind of on that note, Brad, right here, the top one, this is a short form ad hoc newsletter, which you can see had a 20.9% open rate versus the weekly, which is actually a bi-weekly longer form newsletter, had an open rate of 10.6. So you can see right there, it's a no-brainer. The shorter form absolutely resonates with folks more. So that's a key learning that I'm taking into 2020 for sure, is do I just change the name of the entire newsletter to Inside Scoop? Is that really what's resonating with people, or is it that the content is a lot shorter and more succinct? So, trying to learn from that and make some changes into 2020. But here on the right are some graphics. So that's the job board graphic that I made, which is just a header of the job board listing within the newsletter. The Hella Proud Hella is just a Bay Area lingo, and we obviously took a play on the PR in proud to create that graphic. And then the PRSA, actually I can't even see what that says at the moment. Oh, the roundup is the other one there. All of those graphics were just made in Canva for free. So that's that. And obviously, you know, the main piece is our website, which, as I said, was redone a couple of years ago. I manage it along with my one committee member, which is really, really helpful to have a committee for all the work we do. But we also use an open source website management company called Tendency. So they host it for us, and they're also available for IT support, which has been hugely helpful. I mean, you know, whenever I run into a roadblock and I can't make an update, they're available, which is great. We update the site regularly. We have featured content. You can see right here what that looks like on our home page, whether it's a blog post or an upcoming event that we want to highlight. Our events are all synced with Eventbrite. Eventbrite is just, in our mind, the easiest platform to really collect tickets and monitor sales and all that jazz and look at analytics. And then we have a blog, and we have an awards page on the website right at the top right section. We added the awards page this year when we implemented our inaugural chapter awards program called the Foggies, aptly named for Bay Area weather. And then, of course, social media widgets are at the top and at the bottom of the homepage of our site. Any questions there? Okay. Next up is the blog. So as I'm sure you all know and struggle with, content is king, and there's just never a shortage of content. So, you know, I try to pull that from anywhere we possibly can, whether it's Q&As, and Meet the Media series that we implemented this year, where we interviewed journalists to really try to provide value to our members. Our Meet the Board Mondays, which I implemented when I joined in January, just really giving our chapter kind of an introduction to all of their board members and leadership. Coverage that we get, guest posts, etc. So we post an average of 1 to 3 times a month, sometimes more, sometimes less. And then, of course, all of that blog content we push out on all of our social media platforms as well to really give that extra leg. So I can scroll through what our blog looks like right here. Again, this is on mobile, so it's a bit squished, but to give you a bit of a sense. And then over here, I just have a Meet the Media example of what that looks like on our actual blog on desktop, and then a Meet the Board Monday Q&A as well.
Hey, Brooks, as you scroll through that, I'm curious, who puts together the content for you? Is it you and your one-person committee? Do you have people submit stuff? How do you gather? Because I agree, there's a ton of stuff out there, but
Yes.
My issue, and I feel like others' issues, is just gathering and putting it in something that's sensible.
Absolutely. Delegating is the best possible strategy I've had this year. So my committee member, Sarah McBride, and I, we split up a bunch of the Q&As. Our president, John McCartney, he actually came up with the Meet the Media idea for content this year. And so he's tapped his journalist friends. So it's really a nice team effort and a mix across the board of chapter leadership of really trying to pull all the content. Because if it was up to just Sarah, my committee member, and I, it would be a huge lift. So, yep. And then occasionally, like if we have a program director who, you know, hosted an ethics event, we ask them to write a blog post recap. Or this gentleman right here at the bottom, Mitchell Friedman, he is our resident APR director, and he drafted a blog post for us about the importance of APR and what it is, for example. So absolutely delegating and asking, you know, tapping the whole team to produce content. Okay, moving into social media. So Twitter is one of our largest followings at, you know, 1869. A lot of the same content that we use on the blog and all the other social channels. but really trying to promote events to drive ticket sales. That's probably our number one effort across all of social media, just because we have so many events. Membership promos from national are big. Industry news, we obviously always try to retweet from PRSA National or another chapter that we find has some interesting content. We live tweet from events wherever possible. We live tweet. We also live Instagram post, which really does generate a lot of good engagement. Customized timely cover photos. You can see at the top here was a photo promoting our holiday party, which was last week. So whenever we have a big event or a big initiative that we want to post and push, we usually swap out the cover photo for each channel. So Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, etc., to make sure that everybody's seeing that. My strategy for growing our following on Twitter has really been to, search Bay Area agencies and brands and really follow their employees and try to engage with them. And that usually does deliver a high return on following. We also try to tag and follow all event speakers and sponsors, of course, to try to get their engagement. A lot of, influential speakers, of course, and brands might have a big social following. So we're hopefully getting a retweet or a follow from them. Again, it comes down to content. So photos, videos, GIFs, boomerangs, those always initiate a higher engagement. On the right here is a kind of a boomerang collage that resulted from our holiday party last week. We had a photo booth at our party, and people always go crazy for photo booths, and it produces really great content. So we had a lot of people sharing, and right here is just an example of our board presidents from 2018 to 2021. We thought it'd be funny to just do a little spoof and show the succession. So that's what you see there. Let's see. Oh, always want to, of course, leverage native features on social media platforms. So on Twitter, the polling feature, which you can see here at the bottom. I crowdsourced to our following and asked, what should we call our upcoming chapter awards program? So I was able to get some really quick responses. The gold standard was actually our number one choice on Twitter, but not on some of the other SurveyMonkey surveys that we did. So we ended up going with the Foggies, the second one there. But it was really insightful. It helped me tap into our membership, see what they want, and it also lets them know that we are listening to them. We are working for them. Last but not least, on Twitter, obviously always using bit.ly for shortening all links. And tracking analytics there. So that's Twitter. Instagram, I would say in order of my personal preference of social platforms, Instagram is my first favorite and Twitter is second. So over here on the right is what our Instagram profile looks like. And as I mentioned, I started this at the beginning of this year, just in January. So it's only a year old. We're at 200 followers. It's not huge, but we do have a very good engagement. So I tried to jazz up our profile a bit by using some creative fonts. There are a lot of Instagram font generators, two of which are Instagram fonts here in LingoJam. Just wanted to put those in case those are helpful if anybody wants to follow suit. But I always just find that it makes our page stand out a bit more. I do that in our agency's Instagram profile as well. Another thing that I pull for creative fonts for Instagram stories, which is a huge part of the effort on Instagram, is a tool called Word Swag. So that's down here on the bottom, and it produces the graphics like this. So you can see all these different fonts and different coloring, which I find is just more appealing to the eye and therefore makes us look polished and creates more engagement. So we do a lot on Canva there and a lot on Word Swag. I do a lot of Instagram stories, which I mentioned, whether that's promoting an event coming up or an award program or reminders for membership promos or, live footage from our event. So you'll see right here, I make sure to save all of those Instagram stories in our highlights reels. So you'll see I have a Foggy's reel, and then the fun, and then the work part. So that's one tidbit that I'd recommend doing is Instagram stories if you don't yet. And then of course, always making sure that the link within your Instagram profile matches up to your latest post, because as you know, you can't put a live post into the text of an Instagram post. So where people always say link in bio, you always want to make sure that the link that you're putting right here in your bio is relevant to their most recent post. So the last one we put here is a deputy director job posting at SF Water. So we wanted to make sure that we link to the job posting in the profile. We do lots of GIFs and lots of video and photos, of course. Instagram's such a photo heavy platform. Any questions there?
Now, do you have different people delegated to handle Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, et cetera?
So I split the responsibilities with my committee member, Sarah, and we actually have broken it up by day. So she does Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, and I do Tuesday, Thursdays. And then so she does that in social, and then I still manage the website and newsletter. Hoping to get another committee member this coming into 2020 just to break it up even more. But I found that switching the days is the easiest because the content on one day is likely going to be the same across all channels. So if that person is already posting on LinkedIn and learning, all the appropriate tags and hashtags to use, they might as well just follow suit and post on Facebook and Instagram. So that's the process we've found works for us.
So 2 people for all the channels.
Yes.
Woo!
Yeah. And I should also mention that we try to post daily, but it often comes down to an average of like 3-4 times a week.
But that makes a lot of sense to separate it by day, because I agree, when you're doing stuff, you're putting the essentially the same thing, different angles or whatever on each of your platforms. So that makes a lot of sense. I've not heard anybody doing that.
Yeah, I find that works really well just for my real clients too. Someone who knows the content is, it's going to be more efficient for them to just repopulate it, repost it on other channels versus 2 people reading up on, okay, who are the tags, who are, what are the appropriate hashtags that I need to use. So, yep.
Now, when you do stories, do you have like a strategy going in, or is it just kind of see what happens at an event?
Yeah, it's really real time. And that's the other thing is we don't do content calendars like an editorial calendar that we put together, a week or 2 in advance, like we do for our agency's clients, for example. I find that it's more authentic if it's done in real time. So, and it's also a volunteer position. All of us are volunteers with PRSA. I've made that very clear to my committee that, if you get to it, great. If you don't get to it one day, don't sweat it. But yeah, I really feel that the real-time posting at an event or real-time posting of something relevant and timely makes for just more authentic posts. So moving on just a little bit more on Instagram, we capitalize on trending hashtags like Wednesday Wisdom or Throwback Thursday, where that's just an excuse for us to toss up some photos from a past event. Wednesday Wisdom, we created, you'll see in the top middle here, a media moves graphic. So I created this in Canva and I pull it from Bulldog Reporter. They have a media moves weekly article. So this one was a Business Insider reporter who was just appointed senior tech reporter at Business Insider. So trying to really add value to the media relations folks within our chapter. And then another thing we do on Wednesday Wisdom is quotes. So you'll see this bright yellow quote right here. Just, inspirational or industry know-how, where we try to just add value and jump on the trending hashtag, of course, to get seen by more people. Occasionally we do some paid social ads and Instagram included if we're, promoting a big event that we really want to make sure ticket sales are solid for, or a big initiative like our chapter awards. This year we did a few at like $30, and it allows you obviously to break it down by exactly the demographic that you're looking for. And then, consistently following brands and agencies to try to get them to follow us back to really grow our following. And then of course, leveraging the native features on Instagram stories, such as GIFs, quizzes, polling, questions, countdowns. I just find that, the more visuals and the more GIFs that are in Instagram stories, the higher the engagement. And our following usually goes up the more Instagram stories we post. So that's Instagram. LinkedIn, a little bit less sexy, to be honest. We have 2 pages. One is public with almost 450 followers. And then we have an invite-only group, which is actually our biggest platform at 1,400 members. So this is where anybody can post. And I have both of those profile photos down below. So you'll see the chapter at 1,402 members on the left, and then the public page with 447 followers on the right. It's a lot of the same content as our other channels. It's just formatted for LinkedIn, of course. So the appropriate tags and the appropriate hashtags. I think on LinkedIn, you only want to do 2 hashtags per post, if that. Occasionally we do paid ads, of course, same as the other channels, and we swap out the cover photos to keep the content fresh. So that's LinkedIn. Facebook.
What kind of engagement do you have within the group of on LinkedIn?
It's pretty engaged. It's definitely more engaged than our public page. So the private group is much more engaged, and that's anybody. That can be like, for example, we had an Amazon recruiter recently post a bunch of PR jobs on there, and there was a lot of engagement there. And I think that he was then contacted by some folks. So it depends. It depends on what the content is. I sometimes feel like a broken record posting, hey, buy a ticket to our event. So I really try to mix up the content on there because the engagement for those posts are often less than some of the other more unique posts. So, those event posts have to be done. We need to obviously fill the rooms for those events, but I find that kind of more industry intel, access to reporters, or job postings, elicit higher engagements. Facebook sort of has fallen on my lower end of the list in terms of priority channel, just on a personal level. Obviously it remains an amazingly effective advertising tool for brands and for organizations like PRSA. So we certainly use it for that. But I would say we post a little bit less on Facebook definitely less than Instagram. We do leverage their Facebook events feature for all of our events, which is helpful. We just pull the information from Eventbrite, and then of course we swap out the cover photos here to keep it fresh. Right here you can see the photo is our Foggies Award trophies. And our response rate on Facebook for customer service questions is 70%. I'd like to see that increase, but again, we're all volunteers, so we try to get to customer questions or I should say member questions as quickly as we can, but it takes a couple days. And we don't get many questions, obviously, compared to a brand. So that's it for social media. And I'll just move in and talk a bit about media relations, since obviously I try to promote our chapter locally and nationally. A big part of national promotion is really trying to get us into the PR rags, as I call them, those PR publications like PR News, PR Week, PR Daily, Bulldog Reporter. I was able to coordinate a relationship with the editor of Bulldog Reporter to feature all of our Meet the Media Q&As. A lot of PR publications might say no and have said no to promoting some initiatives like our chapter awards, because those publications have their own award program, so that conflicts, which makes total sense. Bulldog Reporter also has their own awards, but they were happy to share our chapter awards press release that I drafted, and they've posted a few of our Meet the Media Q&As. You can see what those look like on their site right here in the photo. And in terms of media relations, I really try to encourage myself and the whole board and into broader membership to really encourage thought leadership. So whether it's a quote that they were just included in PR week, or they wrote a byline, I try to ask them to include their PRSA title in addition to their day job title. I actually just did that today. I was quoted in a PR Daily article, which only included my Hollywood agency title. So I went back and asked if they could add my PRSA title as well, just to help obviously get more visibility for PRSA in general and our chapter. Okay, some key takeaways that I learned this year that I definitely will be taking into next year. This is only a few of them, but one thing that we didn't do this year that I need to implement for 2020 that the Boston chapter does really well is create designated hashtags for events. For one reason or another, just never got around to that this year, but that really helps social media engagement to really encourage folks to use the hashtag. And then of course it makes it easier to track all of those posts. We can just scroll through that specific hashtag. So that's something that we will have plastered all around every event in 2020, whether it's the screen behind the speakers on a panel or little tabletop flyers around like a networking event. Another takeaway, really leveraging graphic design tools to jazz up visuals. I've had a lot of fun with Canva this year and WordSwag, and I encourage your comms directors to do the same, and you just learn as you go, and it just makes the visuals and all the platforms just more engaging. Obviously pivot when something isn't working. Like, for example, Brad, you asked about switching up subject lines. I will do the A/B testing on whether adding the emojis makes any difference. If it does negate engagement, I will obviously take that away. So, always being willing to pivot when something isn't working is important. Asking your audience. I mean, we want to know what's working for them, what's resonating with them, what they like, what they don't like in terms of content. So leverage those poll features in the social media tools. Leverage a SurveyMonkey survey that you can send out in MailChimp. We're going to do that at the end of this year or early next year to really figure out what our membership wants to see next year. And that will then, of course, help inform our initiatives and our programming. Visuals are key. Photos, 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 videos, videos, videos. If you're trying to appeal to a younger demographic, for example, perhaps you consider TikTok. We haven't done that this year, but it might be something that I look at next year. Obviously, the demographic for PRSA is usually a little bit older, but we do have a good PRSA kind of contingency in the Bay Area. So it might make sense to start thinking a little bit about playing around with TikTok next year. Leverage the native social media features like Twitter polling, Facebook events, Instagram stories. A big takeaway is that short form content gets a lot better engagement. So less is more when it comes to something like the newsletters. And communications is a really big role. I mean, daily social media posting on all those channels, newsletter, website updates. It's a big task. So really try to form a committee. I would encourage you to try to form a committee and leverage your team to really get the job done. Last but not least, here's my little cheat sheet for digital tools in case these are helpful. WordSwag and Canva for graphic design. And here's 2 examples of graphics that I created in Canva right here. The Instagram font generator, and then just obviously some of the native features and visuals on Instagram, and using GIFs. And then, Giphy is a great resource for free GIFs. And a lot of the native GIF sharing within Instagram and Twitter is automatically connected to Giphy anyway. So that's that. If you want to reach out and ask me other questions after this call, feel free to. I'm on Twitter at Brooks B. Wallace. We're at PRSA SF on Twitter for the chapter, and then you can easily shoot me an email too if you want to discuss anything or have any other follow-up questions.
Brooks, this is Brad. Do you at all collect metrics and report them out in any way, or share them, and at what cadence, and to evaluate, whether to dial up, dial down different channels based on the data you're getting?
Sure. Yes. And I definitely want to do more of that next year. But every board retreat that we have in January, which kicks off the year, I do a bit of a recap on analytics for the previous year, and then what our goal is moving forward. So we set like a follower goal, we set an engagement goal, and obviously at the end of the year we look back to see if we met that. We do also check in midway through the year. So we have a mid-year board retreat over the summer where we did the same. So it's a look back, what's been working, how are analytics performing, and what do we want to tweak. So just twice a year, really. And then I do it, regularly every time I jump into MailChimp, for example. Good question.
This was awesome, Brooks. Thank you. Any other questions out there?
Brooks, this is Mindy. I'm a regional rep for our district here, Southeast, Mid-Atlantic, and also Sunshine. I have to tell you, I am so impressed what you and your colleague do. That is a tremendous amount of really high quality communication work for volunteers. So props to you guys. And I know you said you wanted to try and increase your committee size, but I see what a lot of chapters are doing, and you guys are doing really, really outstanding work. So thank you for that. We really appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate that. Kudos. Thank you so much. It's and of course, coming from peers, it means a lot. So thank you. But I mean it in terms of trying to get yourself a committee. And as presidents, encourage your comms directors to really try to build up committees, because it takes a village for sure.
What I'm most struck back in thinking about this is all these channels are now foundational. It's like these aren't just extra things you're doing. No. This is now where the bar has been moved for baseline engagement across these channels to reach people in all the different ways that they can be reached.
Absolutely. It's just, the price of doing business at this point. We try to obviously mirror what best practices we're doing for our clients, and follow suit within PRSA San Francisco. So you're right. It's a new world, and it is definitely a pay to play world as well. So that's another consideration going into 2020, that I'm going to probably propose a bit of a, maybe $300-500 budget for paid social media to really move the needle in terms of trying to grow the following. And I'm always watching all these other amazing brands and, watching what they're doing on Twitter and taking cues from that. Like, for example, Career Contessa on Instagram is an amazing, amazing feed. I would recommend you guys take a look at that. But they've just made a name for themselves in terms of, witty quotes and content, and their graphics are just beautiful, and it's all really insightful career tips, essentially. And another big one that I follow and watch and mirror a lot is at PR Girl Manifesto. So they actually do some, they offer up like what's it called? The ability for someone to just take over their handle for the day. So, maybe in 2020, I'll have our president, Jenna Watson-Goodall, have her take over PR Girl Manifesto's feed for a day on Instagram, which obviously gets us in the chapter and PRSA in general in front of, their huge audience, which I want to say it's like 15,000 or something like that. So there's also those takeover opportunities that a lot of these PR social channels offer to agency founders or, executives at brands who work in the industry. So I would encourage you to check those out too, and leverage those kind of takeovers to increase your followings. It's a lot of fun though. You have to love it. You have to, be a PR wonk, as I always say, and I just really enjoy giving back and trying to create value for our members, and social media and just all the communications platforms in general are a great way to do that.
Great. Any other questions? All right, Brooks, thank you again. Wonderful information and a lot of new things that I definitely had not thought of before. So thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and everyone, thank you as well for joining us. We will see you next year. We will get this posted on YouTube, and we'll share it around. That way people who weren't able to join, you can share it with them so they can see it as well and get all this great insight. And then if you yourself want to go back, pause, take more notes, etc., you'll have that as well. So again, thank you, everyone. I hope you all have a safe and wonderful new year. And Brooks, take care. Much appreciated.
Thanks so much. Happy holidays, everybody.
You too.